Hi, I'm Stephen and welcome to today's video where we service our own BMW or Bosch diesel fuel injectors. We're going to start with a leak-off test, and after that we will clean any carbon buildup out of the injector nozzles. This is a service that is best done every 100,000 miles or 160,000 kilometers to keep your injectors and your engine in good condition. Continuing to drive with bad injectors will not only result in poor fuel economy, rough running and lower power, it'll also wear out your engine a lot sooner. Let's get right to it. I almost forgot to mention, all of my videos now have a fully corrected subtitle track. What this means is that they will translate a lot better to other languages. So if you are not a native English speaker, then the YouTube auto-translated subtitles will work a lot better for you now, especially the technical words. Back to the video. Our fuel injectors are made from steel, and we have alloy cylinder heads. This is important because they expand at different rates when they get hot. In fact, our cylinder heads will expand twice as much as the fuel injectors, which means that if we want them to come out of the car nice and easily, then we need to get the car warmed up before we start the job. The warmer, the better, as a couple of thousandths of an inch can make all the difference. A couple of laps of the driveway is not going to do it. These diesel engines don't warm up quickly at any time, so make sure you schedule a 30-minute drive before you start this job. Get to the injectors. As usual with a BMW, there's a few things you need to remove before you can get to anything really. Let's get this car apart. Remove injector connectors. The first is the electrical connectors. They are a bit tight and they're almost vacuum sealed on, it seems. So press the little button down and give them a bit of persuasion with a plastic trim tool. Yes, we're dealing with injectors, so there's going to be leakage pretty much everywhere, so it's a good idea to get plenty of rag or paper towel out for this particular job. These little clips, you can take them off with a screwdriver or you can pull them off with the pliers. Either way works okay. For the return lines, we need to lever these off carefully. They're only plastic and they do get brittle over time, so if your car has over 100,000 miles on it, these little connectors can break, but fortunately you can buy brass replacement fittings that won't break in the future. The last one at the end there is extra tricky because you can't lever it from both sides. Let's connect up our leak-off test equipment now. Pull this return line and we need to put that into a bottle. We need to catch the fuel, the diesel fuel that comes out of there. Otherwise it'll go all over the engine, all over the ground. In this kit it's for a number of different injectors, but these are pre-configured for Bosch injectors. So these little ends will click straight in to the return at the top of each injector. So we just need to hang this up, connect this up, and then start the engine and see how we go. So we'll just do that. Okay, we'll make sure we put 1 to 1, etc. Okay, number 2 to 2. For added security, we'll add the clips back on so we don't get anything spraying out everywhere. Yep, that's working well. We'll add the other clips. Okay, key in, we'll make sure there's no leaks. Nothing leaking. Okay. Are the injectors good? What we're looking for in this test is a great variance between the different vials. If one of them was 3 times as much as the others, we'd know we'd have a serious problem with that one injector, for example. And if they were all different by a great margin, that would also indicate a problem. But we ran this test for about 4 minutes, and we got 14 milliliters on the largest number 2 injector, and the rest were a little bit less, and that's perfectly good. That indicates we have good injectors all around. Injector removal tips. In this video, removing the injectors is not something I'm going to show you because that's a whole video in itself. There's a number of issues that you can get when you try and remove the injectors from your BMW. They can really be stuck. But what I've done, I've created a little extra to the injector removal tool here, and that is just to get under the edge, the metal parts of the injector, to help it up with a slight tap. This particular kit will take off just about any injector, and it will do so by removing the whole top of the injector that you can see there. The plastic part all comes off, and you can attach the metal tool to a very strong thread and really give it some heave. However, we want to avoid using this method if at all possible. The reason is that once we unscrew the solenoid at the top of the injector, we ruin the calibration of the injector. That means the car no longer has the precise control of the injector that it needs to keep everything running super smoothly. So hopefully we can avoid doing that by making sure our engine is nice and hot before we start. Most of the time, this little ground down bolt that I've created just fits under there, like you can see, and it just gives a little helping hand once you've unscrewed everything and taken the diesel lines off. The other thing you should know is when you're removing the diesel lines, it's best to have a spanner that's specifically designed for fluid lines, a bit like a brake spanner, a brake line spanner that fits around and catches more of the flats of the nut, just to avoid damage. And of course, the other thing I should mention, these little tiny hold down bolts, nuts, they can rust up and they can break off pretty easily. So I would recommend that you buy a whole set of them when you take out your injectors, so that when you put them back in you have no trouble. Time to get those injectors apart and see what we can do about the nozzle holes. Okay, first of all we'll just mark these injectors so we can put the right bits on the right injector. And once we've marked with the pen, we also need to mark I like to mark the body of the injector there so that it can match up. And what I'm doing here is also creating a little alignment line, so when we put this back together we can get it done up to the correct tension. If you don't want to use something as crude as a file, then of course you can use a diamond-tipped scribing tool instead. Much more elegant and discreet. I don't have torque values for these injectors, but if we make a line like that, we can get it as tight as it needs to be. So let's get this injector apart. You need a very, very strong vise attached very well to the table. Look at that vise, it is moving way too much. I need to fix that. You need one good heave to get these things undone. And let's start getting them apart. As you can see, a fair bit of carbon built up around the place. We need to clean all that off. Okay, let's get this nozzle off. Now in this case the needle valve is stuck in the nozzle, so we'll need to tap that out in a second. Okay, we're taking all these parts out and I'm lining them up so you can see how they go back in, just in case you take it apart and it all falls on the floor, which is very easy for it to happen. I've done it myself. And it's good to know how that all goes back together. Now we'll just tip this out, and there's a spring in there and a little spring seat as well, so you can see all of the parts in that lower end of the injector. There we go. Now we'll just get that needle valve out there, bit of a tap, and now is the best time to have a look at the needle valve with a magnifying glass. We are checking to see if there is any scoring down the length of the needle, long scrape marks, which means that the fuel injector is in too bad a condition to bother continuing with this cleaning exercise. If there is damage, it may indicate that your high pressure fuel pump is leaving metal particles in the diesel fuel. It could also indicate that there is a lot of water in your diesel, which is causing rust inside the injector. You can see that this needle valve is in top condition, so we'll continue. There we go, all the pieces. And these little dowels are here. Just be careful they don't fall out on you and land on the floor and bounce away. They're not stuck in particularly well. And there we go, all four of them apart, ready for cleaning. Let's have a quick look under the microscope. One dodgy USB microscope shows that one hole is looking okay there, but the one in the lower right hand corner is definitely blocked up. If you are in doubt about whether a hole is blocked, or you don't have a microscope handy, then you can do an easy visual test by spraying some brake cleaner through the nozzle. There should be 5 or 6 evenly spaced holes spraying out. If there is a gap in the spray pattern, then we have a blocked hole. You can see clearly here that there is something missing. Into the cleaning basket, into our ultrasonic cleaner, we'll put the nozzle and the nozzle holding part there. We'll give them all a clean. In they go, 50 degrees, 30 minutes. Give them a nice ultrasonic shake there. Almost finished. 3, 2, 1. All finished. Okay, there they are, all laid out nice and clean. We want them sparkly clean, ready for reassembly. Part 4. Let's have a quick look under the microscope, and you can see the cleaned nozzle, and we'll go through and look at all holes, and you can see they're looking very, very nice indeed. They're round, there's no carbon in there. A perfect hole. Just to be certain, we'll spray through some brake cleaner. And you can see that all of the holes are firing like they should. If you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, then there is a backup method. You can see that I've attached the nozzle and the nozzle retainer to an outside work area. And now we'll give them a blast with the pressure washer.
Oops.
And as a final check, we'll spray through some brake cleaner and look for an even spray pattern. Lovely. Let's get these things back together. So, give them a quick wipe down just to make sure there's no dirt anywhere. We want them nice and clean when we put them back together. Okay, back into the vise they go, and back together they go. Dip each part in some clean diesel, and then back in they go. We'll start with this little washer. Then the spring. Next we'll just top up the injector with diesel, so there is not as much air in there when we start the car. Next we'll take this little piece. And now we'll put this little guy in the top, but it is super important that it sits flat. So we'll double and triple check. If it stands on its side, then it will be broken into pieces when we screw the injector back together. Please don't ask me how I know that. And now for the needle valve. Place it in the nozzle. And then align the 3 holes. Hold it in place against the spring pressure, and then screw on the final piece. Now tighten it until it aligns with the marks we made earlier. We'll take a new copper washer and push it into place. We got the next step, putting them back in the car. Now if your injector hole looks like that, nice and shiny, you probably just need to give it a wipe out and it'll be fine. If it looks like this, however, with carbon in the bottom, that's not going to give it a good seal. So we need to give that a quick ream, a quick scrape out with a very sharp tool. And for that I'll use this Injector Reamer tool. This one does a few different types of injectors. It's not an expensive kit, so it's well worth having. Put it together like so, and it's ready to use. It has a connection at the top to use a spanner on, but doing it by hand is what you'll need mostly. That will be enough. Just a very, very light scraping to remove that carbon deposit. And you can see there it's looking shiny. Well, I can almost see there it's looking fairly shiny and ready for the injector to go in. But just to make sure we don't have any grit in there, we'll put a bit of shop towel on the end of my little extension there, my little pickup tool. You can spray a bit of WD-40 on there so that the dirt will stick, and we'll squeeze that in, turning it all the way, get all of the gunk out, all of the loose pieces and all of the scrapings that we just did with the reamer tool. We want a nice clean hole for our freshly refurbished injectors to go into. And you can see there we've picked up all of the gunk. Fantastic. Now when we look down there, we have a nice shiny surface for that copper washer to go against. As a final step, to ensure that no grit fell into the cylinder, we'll give it some vacuum cleaning. If you do want to put some grease on your copper washer or anywhere else, there's the special grease we can use, and that is from Febi Bilstein, and that's good to 1400 degrees Celsius, so it has no trouble. If you put normal grease in that injector hole, it will carbonize itself, and it may help to stick your injector in a way that you really don't want, so it pays to use the correct grease in that regard. Before you tighten down your injector for the final time, give it some slight taps on the top, using a 12mm socket to spread the load a bit. Ideally, you would only do this on a solid steel part of the injector, as the top solenoid cover is only plastic, but you would have to make a special attachment for the slide hammer to do this properly. Keep in mind that this is only to ensure that there is not some nasty little piece of grit, for example, or some imperfection in the metal that is stopping our copper washer from sealing properly. So only little taps. I hope this video will help you out when you do your diesel fuel injectors. If you like this video, then give it a like and consider sharing it with your friends. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, then hit that subscribe circle. Until next time.